So what is the Electoral College? It certainly doesn't look like any college you've ever seen or know or want to study at. The Electoral College is a group that meets every 4 years to choose the next president of the United States. Well, if you said, hey, wait a second, I thought the American people vote to pick the president in elections that are held every 4 years in November, you'd be partly right and partly wrong. True, U.S. presidential elections are indeed held every 4 years in early November, but those going to vote are not voting directly for the president. American voters in each of the 50 states vote for members of the Electoral College. Members of the Electoral College, called electors, from each state pledge to vote for the candidate that was chosen by the majority of voters in their state. I can see you still seem confused. You're probably asking, who are the members of the Electoral College? And why did they get to decide who becomes President of the United States? The short answer is because the Constitution declares, each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. In the early years, in America, each state legislature picked the electors for their state, and individuals did not vote. By the election of President Andrew Jackson in 1828, every state had a popular election for the electors who pledged to vote for their choice for president. So the Electoral College must be the best system, right? It's been around for over 200 years and seems to be working. Hold on. That's true up to a point. But the Electoral College system has a few problems. First, with the Electoral College, small states have more power per voter than large states. Since the Constitution guarantees that the smallest number of electors a state can have is 3, if a person comes from, let's say, the state of Wyoming, with a population of just over 500,000 that gets 3 electoral votes, then every electoral vote there represents almost 170,000 people. However, in a really populous state like the state of California, with almost 40 million people and 55 electoral votes, every electoral vote represents over 650,000 people. The second problem is that in 48 of the 50 states, that's all but 2, the winner of the majority of the people's votes get all of that state's electoral votes. So most candidates do not even bother campaigning in any state where most voters consistently vote either Republican or Democrat. This reality can lead to another problem, like the case of the 2000 presidential election when Al Gore received more popular votes than George W. Bush, but George W. Bush won more electoral votes. So Bush became president. A candidate can win more voters' votes and still earn less electoral votes when the candidate wins an overwhelming majority in some big states, but the other candidate wins states with a much smaller margin but gets the electoral votes. And so that candidate ultimately wins the election. So why haven't they changed the system? Because changing the U.S. Constitution is very difficult. It requires the support of most of the states, including the small ones, who benefit from the current system.